Hey there, grab a comfy seat, maybe a cup of coffee, because today I want to tell you about a book that genuinely blew my mind and offered such a fresh perspective on why we struggle. It's called It Didn't Start With You: How Inherited Family Trauma Shapes Who We Are and How to End the Cycle by Mark Wolin. The title alone, right? It just makes you pause and think. I picked up this book because, like many of us, I've often wondered why certain patterns keep repeating in my life, or why I feel certain fears that don't quite make sense with my own experiences. And let me tell you, this book doesn't just offer theories, it offers a profound, almost revolutionary way to understand ourselves, drawing on some cutting-edge science and incredibly moving stories. It's like Mark Wolin takes your hand and gently guides you through a hidden map of your own history. So what's the big idea? Wolin's central thesis is that many of the emotional, psychological, and even physical struggles we face, things like anxiety, depression, chronic illness, phobias, or relationship difficulties, aren't necessarily originating with us. Instead, they can be echoes or even direct manifestations of unresolved traumas from our parents, grandparents, and sometimes even great-grandparents. He calls this inherited family trauma, and he argues that these fragments of life experience, memory, and body sensation can live on, as if reaching out from the past to find resolution in the minds and bodies of those living in the present. It's a pretty powerful idea, isn't it? Mark himself stumbled upon this realization through his own debilitating experience. He talks about suddenly losing his vision, being diagnosed with the condition without a cure, and spiraling into a deep depression, feeling alone, helpless, and ruined. He searched everywhere, gurus in Southeast Asia, various therapies, but nothing truly helped. It wasn't until two different spiritual masters told him, in no uncertain terms, "Go home and call your mother and your father," that his true healing journey began. He realized that judging and rejecting his parents had actually kept him distant from himself. Through reconnecting with them, he started to uncover family traumas, like his mother's hospitalization when he was an infant, and his own difficult birth with forceps. He even discovered that three of his grandparents had lost their mothers at an early age, and the fourth lost a father as an infant. All of this, he says, helped to forge my secret language of fear. His eyesight almost miraculously returned after he made these connections and healed his relationship with his parents. Now, you might be thinking, that sounds interesting, but is there actual science behind this? And the answer is a resounding yes. Wolin weaves in fascinating research from fields like neuroscience and epigenetics. He highlights the work of Rachel Yehuda, a pioneer in PDD research, who found that children of Holocaust survivors often have similar low cortisol levels to their parents, predisposing them to PDD symptoms, even though they never directly experienced the trauma. This isn't just a psychological phenomenon, it's a biological one. He also mentions incredible mouse studies where fears of a certain smell were passed down 2 generations, showing that epigenetic changes in gene expression without altering the DNA sequence itself can occur due to trauma and be inherited. Even the emotions a pregnant mother experiences can biochemically alter the genetic expression of her child, programming how the child adapts to stress. It's mind-boggling to think that your grandmother's experiences, perhaps even before your mother was conceived, can literally leave a biological residue in you. So how do we uncover these hidden patterns that might be running our lives? This is where Wolin's core language approach comes in, and it's truly practical. He believes that our core language, the idiosyncratic words and phrases we use to describe our deepest fears, struggles, or even physical symptoms, are clues from our unconscious, waiting to be rediscovered. He breaks it down into 4 key tools, like a map to buried treasure. First, there's your core complaint. This is your main issue, expressed in emotionally charged words. Take Jesse, for example, a young man with debilitating insomnia who feared, "If I go to sleep, I'll never wake up," or Gretchen, who, amidst her severe depression, had a terrifying plan to vaporize herself in molten steel. When Wolin dug deeper, Jesse's fear of falling asleep linked to his uncle, who froze to death at the same age Jesse was when his insomnia started. Gretchen's vaporize and incinerate directly echo her grandmother's family perishing in the ovens at Auschwitz. See how the words led to the origin. Next are your core descriptors, which are the adjectives and phrases you instinctively use to describe your parents. This might sound like a simple exercise, but Wolin argues that these reveal unconscious loyalties and how we might be projecting our unresolved feelings about our parents onto our partners or other relationships. He shares a client, Tricia, who described her partners as cold and insensitive, and then realized she used the exact same words to describe her mother, who was distant because her own mother, Tricia's grandmother, was sent away as a toddler after her mother's death. It's like what's unresolved with our parents becomes the template for our later relationships. Then comes the core sentence, which is your absolute worst fear in life, stated in a short, emotionally charged sentence. This is powerful because, as Wolin explains, when you speak it aloud, you'll often feel a strong physical reaction. It might be, "I'll be all alone," or "they'll betray me," or "I'll lose everything." He tells the incredible story of Zach, who had a lifelong feeling that "I need to die" and made multiple suicide attempts. Through his core sentence, they traced it back to his grandfather, a high-ranking official in Mussolini's cabinet who escaped execution for his wartime actions. Essentially dodging his death, Zach was unconsciously trying to balance the score for his grandfather. Isn't that wild? Finally, all these clues led to the core trauma, the unresolved event in your personal or family history that sits behind your core language. Sometimes this means drawing a genogram, a family tree that visually maps out these difficult fates across generations. It's a way to see the big picture and understand that you might be living out patterns that were too painful or shameful for your ancestors to resolve or even speak about. Wolin also delves into 4 unconscious themes that can interrupt our life's flow. 1. Merging with a parent like Kevin, who unconsciously repeated his father's financial ruin, thinking that if he carried the pain, his father wouldn't have to carry it alone. 2. Rejecting a parent who would push a parent away, even if they were genuinely difficult. We can unconsciously replicate their behaviors or attract partners who embody the very qualities we dislike. 3. An early break in a bond with our mother. This is incredibly common and often goes unrecognized. If you were separated from your mother for an extended period as an infant due to hospitalization, adoption, or even emotional unavailability, it can create a deep sense of anxiety, distrust, and difficulty with intimacy later in life. Think of Kelly, who pulled out her hair trichotillomano nightly. A behavior that started after a painful rejection at 13, but was truly rooted in being separated from her mother for 10 days at 18 months old for surgery. Her fear of being all alone was literally playing out. 4. Identification with another family member. This is when you unconsciously take on the feelings, behaviors, or even fate of an aunt, uncle, or sibling who suffered or was excluded. So what do we do once we have this understanding? That's the beautiful part of the book. Wolin emphasizes that insight is just the first step. Integration is where the real healing happens. He provides powerful tools like healing sentences and visualizations. For example, Sandy, who carried the claustrophobia and fear of death from her Holocaust survivor ancestors, imagined speaking to her deceased grandparents and aunt, telling them, "I have been terrified just like you, and I can see that this terror doesn't even belong to me," and then feeling them bless her to be free. Jesse told his uncle, "From now on, Uncle Colin, you'll live on in my heart, not in my sleeplands," and his insomnia resolved. He also suggests rituals and practices, like placing a photo of a deceased parent on your desk, lighting a candle, or even just placing your hand on your body and speaking soothing words to yourself like "I've got you" or "I'll stay with you" when old fears arise. The science of neuroplasticity tells us that these practices can actually create new neural pathways in our brain, reshaping our internal landscape. In essence, "It Didn't Start With You" is a profound invitation to look beyond our immediate story and understand the deep, often invisible, currents of our family's past that continue to shape our present. It's about recognizing that the optical delusion of being separate from our ancestors is just that, a delusion. Their stories, their pains, and their triumphs are literally woven into our being. For anyone feeling stuck, like they've tried everything and still can't find peace, this book offers a truly hopeful and empowering message. It's not about blaming our ancestors or getting caught in the past, but about acknowledging, honoring, and then gently releasing what isn't ours to carry. By doing so, we don't just heal ourselves, we liberate future generations as well. It's about transforming a legacy of distress into a legacy of strength and freedom. This book truly provides the map and the compass to find your way back to yourself and a fuller, more peaceful life. It's powerful medicine indeed.